அனைவருக்கும் காலை வணக்கம். இந்த சிறப்பான திட்டத்தை முழுமையாக வகுத்து செயல்பாட்டுக்கு கொண்டு வந்த மரியாதைக்குரிய முதன்மை செயலாளர் உதயச்சந்திரன் அவர்களே, பாரதிதாசன் இன்ஸ்டிடியூட் ஆஃப் மேனேஜ்மெண்ட் முதல்வர் ப்ரொஃபஸர் வர்மா அவர்களே, இங்கே பல தேர்வுகளை தாண்டி தேர்ந்தெடுக்கப்பட்ட சிறப்பான 30 fellows. And since I see more than 30 people here, I assume they must be either your family or government staff. So, உங்கள் அனைவருக்கும் இங்கே முதல் பாராட்டையும் வாழ்த்தையும் தெரிவித்து பிறகு வணக்கத்தை தெரிவித்துக் கொள்கிறேன். Such programs are a very integral part of our philosophy. Since you're just getting started, maybe I'll take a few steps back and lay some groundwork for you. There's a difference between politics and administration or governance. Politics is about way one envisions a society, assuming you have some core values. And based on those values, you try and shape the dialogue, shape the discussion in society about how the government should run, how schemes should be devised, how the money should be spent, etc. Administration is a very different talent. Administration requires you to manage a large, complex organization with many competing demands, forces, vectors, and deliver results. There have been instances where people have been brilliant at philosophy, at cultural change, at setting the mindset of a whole civilization. You take Periyar, for example. Periyar was never interested in the kind of electoral politics that we see today. In fact, the greatest reason for the divergence of first Periyar and the Justice Party, which he had joined after leaving Congress, and then later Periyar and Aringer Anna, was exactly that he felt that becoming an electoral politics party and then going and running for election would dilute the message of socio-cultural revolution that he was mostly interested in. And he felt that the nature of electoral politics would weaken the character, create all kinds of corruption in the core philosophy and execution of that mindset. And therefore, he never wanted to be in electoral politics. Aringer Anna, on the other hand, had already experienced a role in the Justice Party when it was in administration. And like many in the Justice Party, he realized that you can actually affect profound change if you have the electoral power. And you can frame laws, you can frame schemes, you can frame the whole structure of society using the legislative power in a democracy. And even the Justice Party was not even a true democracy, it was only diarchy. It was a split responsibility between the British and the Indian elected representatives. இன்னைக்கு சொல்லுவேன், ஒரு சிறந்த தலைவர் என்றால் எந்த தத்துவம், எந்த கொள்கைக்காக அரசியல் செய்கிறோமோ, தேர்தலில் வெற்றி பெற்று அரசாங்கத்தை அமைத்தால் அதே கொள்கையும் அதே தத்துவமும் அடிப்படையாக வைத்துக்கொண்டு எல்லா சட்டங்கள், சட்ட திருத்தங்கள், திட்டங்கள், நிதி ஒதுக்கீடு எல்லாம் அந்த அடிப்படையில் செய்தால் அது சிறந்த தலைவர். அது முழு ஜனநாயகம். பிகாஸ் யூ சே what you said you do what you said you were going to do, and you say, again, the next election comes, based on what I have done, you tell me whether I should again get elected and do what I say I'm going to do. In the அடிப்படையில் பார்த்தால், and I'm not talking shallow things like, this campaign promise or something like that. I'm talking about core values. சுயமரியாதை, சமூக நீதி, பொருளாதார நியாயம், எல்லோருக்கும் எல்லாம். Those values must come through in everything you do. And the core ideology continuation irundal from outside government to inside government, then you will find people much more willing and much more receptive to take inputs from others. எங்களுடைய அரசாங்கத்துக்கும் உதாரணமாக ஒன்றிய அரசாங்கத்துக்கும் வித்தியாசம் என்னென்னா, ஆட்சிக்கு வந்து பல மாதங்களில் ஒரு வருடத்துக்குள் எல்லா துறையிலையும் வல்லுநர் குழு, ஆலோசனை குழு, வாரியம், மேலாண்மை, we just roped in so many members of society into every department, every function, every administrative role, because we want to get the best ideas from everybody, and because we are Democrats at heart. மக்களுடைய ஈடுபாடுடன் உன்னை உருவாக்கினால், the chances are, A, that it will be a better outcome, whatever that is, a law or a scheme or allocation of funds, and that it will be better accepted by the people, because some members of the society have had some input into it, rather than just government servants and elected representatives. So, இதை எல்லா துறையிலும், take my own departments, finance department, we got first a bunch of global economists of very great repute, far better than the average quality of the government of India's economic advisors we have for Tamil Nadu. We didn't stop there. For the correction of audit, we put in a separate team. For the management of litigation risk, we put in a separate team. And in many of these teams, there are maybe even disproportionate representation of Brahmins. So sometimes we got a pushback. நீங்கள் சமூக நீதி எல்லோருக்கும் வாய்ப்புன்னு சொல்கிறீங்க, ஆனால் உங்கள் வல்லுநர் குழுக்களில் there are significant over representation of Brahmins. There is a distinction between providing livelihoods, providing opportunity, providing justice in terms of reservations, and seeking advice. When I seek advice, I don't really look at whether they are white or brown or pink or any other distinction or any community. யாரெல்லாம் சிறந்த நிபுணர்கள் ஏற்கனவே செயல்பாட்டில் இல்லை ஆராய்ச்சியில் காமிச்சிருக்காங்களோ அவங்ககிட்டேருந்து we are only taking input, we are not taking direction. ஏன்னா எங்கள் தத்துவம், எங்கள் கொள்கை அந்த அளவுக்கு எங்களுக்கு தைரியம் இருக்குது. அவங்க என்ன சொன்னாலும் அதற்கு விரோதமாக இருந்தால் நாங்கள் எடுக்க மாட்டோம், செயல்படுத்த மாட்டோம் என்ற துணிச்சலும் தெளிவும் இருக்கிறதுனால், we don't put those filters when we are looking for people to serve voluntarily for us on inputs. Of course, we'd like to make sure there's representation from different aspects of society or different segments of society. We always ensure there's women participation. We always ensure there's participation from all different communities. But we are not as strict ratio definers over there as we are in the daily functioning of the government. As important as that is, we are all shaped by our experiences. Therefore, it is important that we bring people with different sets of experiences, with different track records to help us. எந்த அளவுக்கு அது எங்களுக்கு பெரிய பலமாக இருக்கிறதோ, எங்களுக்கு முக்கியமாக தெரிகிறதோ, அதே அளவுக்கு programs such as this are very, very important to us. Important to us. Of course, this is a flagship program, so I can't say like this. It's a pioneering program. So let me talk only about this program first, then I'll say we're doing parallel efforts to do maybe not so big, not so impactful, but other similar programs. Why is this program so important to us? And now, good ideas come from all places, and sometimes the best ideas come from people who have not yet been crystallized or shaped so firmly by decades of experience in any one system and are still open in their minds to thinking broadly and without any kind of artificial color or constraint, or color or constraint developed through decades of experience or years of experience doing something. ஸோ எங்களுக்கும் ஒரு அளவுக்கு புரிதல் இருக்குது. அரசு பணியாளர்கள் பல ஆண்டுகள் இல்லை பல பத்தாண்டுகள் பணியில் இருந்திருக்கிறார்கள். நல்ல டீப் எக்ஸ்பீரியன்ஸ் புரிதல் இருக்குது. அதற்கு மேல் வெளியேந்து கொண்ட ஆலோசகர்களுக்கு they have bring a different experience and a different view, but we are all by now matured in our views. The value of getting people who are fresh, who have not yet matured in their views, is very high to us. அதற்காகவே in fact all great organizations do some form of internship, some form of fellowship, universities, large corporations. And so now our government, following in our general approach, எங்கெல்லாம் நல்ல கருத்து இருக்கோ அங்கெல்லாம் அதை உள்வாங்கி முடிவெடுக்கிறது முதலமைச்சர், அமைச்சர்கள். ஆனால் கருத்து கேட்கறது எல்லோர்ட்டையும் கேட்க வேண்டியது எங்களுடைய கடமை. அதுதான் ஜனநாயகம். In particular, young people have a second reason to be included. Most of us are in the last half or last third of our lives. The young are going to inherit this country. Unfortunately, the way the systems are shaped, the older people have very much more control about what the future will be, even though the younger are the ones that are going to benefit or lose from the shaping of the future. So such programs that let the young have a hand in shaping their own future and the generations to come after them are also very important and break the traditional boundaries of the power structure of any society. For these reasons, I think you are in a really great place at a great time. We, in our government, pride ourselves in some very different values than what some other governments or some other parties pride themselves. We are not strident about any religion. We are not strident about strength itself. We don't say we are the strongest in the world, we are the best in the world, we are the most ardent followers in the world. No. Our values arising from self-respect, arising from social justice, are first about compassion. எந்த ஒரு அரசாங்கத்துக்கும் ஒரு கட்சிக்கும் ஒரு இயக்கத்துக்கும் அடிப்படை the yardstick for measuring, is it compassionate, is it inclusive, does it face issues with humanity, empathy. To me, these are much more powerful attributes than anybody saying they're strong man and this size and that size. I can pay somebody to be a bodybuilder and be a strong man. Doesn't mean anything. Even Hitler was a strong man. What did he do for us, for the world, for our history? So our core value in execution on a daily basis is compassion, is empathy, humanity. And you only prove the value of that if you have the second attribute, which is competence. எதை கையில் எடுக்கிறோமோ அதை முழுமையாக முடித்து அதனுடைய விளைவை காமித்து அதனால் சொல்கிறோம் மனித நேயமுள்ள திறனுள்ள ஆட்சி, மக்களுக்கு மிகவும் பயனான ஆட்சி. சும்மா நான் பெரியவன், நான் பயில்வானு, நான் இது நான் அதுன்னு சொல்லிட்டு இருக்கிற ஆட்சி விளைவில்லாத ஆட்சி. And there's a very strong correlation, let's be clear. Those who think they're that smart, those who think they know everything, those who think they're only dealing from strength, those who therefore don't show empathy, they don't show inclusion, are doomed to fail. It's a truism. எத்தனை நாள் ஆகுன்றது தான் கேள்வியை தவிர, there is no dictatorship, there is no authoritarian regime that has lasted any real length of time in the history of the world. அதனால், what I want you to think about as you go through your 2 years is, we are here on our values and we pride ourselves in every day applying those values as we function as an administration. The immediate personification or uruvam of our values is core empathy, humanity, compassion in dealing with people. There are so many cliches, there are so many conventional wisdoms. RSL politics is full of such nonsense. You know, everybody, the sloganeering politics, though it has reached a special height today, has been around for centuries, not just in India. In every culture you go, there'll be some nonsense slogan that is used to hide some deep truth. And the repeated use of the slogan distorts the debate. It becomes easy to catch somebody with a 10-second or 15-second soundbite or some phrase or some slogan. Even yesterday we were in a debate where somebody said, அரசு வந்து இல்லை இந்த துறை வந்து சேவை மனப்பான்மையில் செயல்படணும், அதனால் எவ்வளோ நஷ்டம் வந்தாலும் அது பார்க்கக்கூடாது. I push back hard against that. Nowhere in the Constitution does it say that I have to be compassionate and the only indication of compassion is how much loss I bear. Smart people will be compassionate at low cost or zero cost, or meaning no loss of revenue or minimal loss of revenue, because it's a zero-sum game. இங்கேயே நஷ்டத்தில் போயிருந்தேன்னா அப்புறம் சிற்றுண்டு திட்டத்துக்கு எங்கே இந்த 4000 கோடியை கண்டுபிடிப்பேன்? It's a zero-sum game. It's not like we have infinite resources. So there is nowhere it says that if you are compassionate, you have to be stupid, or if you are compassionate, you have to be incompetent in administration. You can be both. In fact, you should be both compassionate and competent. In that sense, I would say you are starting and looking at a very fertile field. என்னை பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் 5 years as an opposition MLA, 1.5 years as a minister, there is so much room for improvement, so much. The numbers tell us we have already done a reasonable job in the last year and a half, and certainly an unprecedented improvement, at least at the core, numbers and statistics of deficit management, interest management, inflation management, a reasonable increase in revenues and balancing of the budget and so forth. But if you ask me on a scale of 1 to 10, if the opportunity set was that we started at 1 or 2, we are at 4 or 5. We still got so much headroom, so many things that need to improve. If we spend a rupee, how much benefit are we really getting? When we spend money, are we spending it for the benefit of the citizens or some intermediaries? In the way we have our agricultural subsidies and procurement model defined, is it actually benefiting the farmers or is it benefiting middlemen? These are all questions that I don't know the answer to after sitting in some form in the system for 6.5 years. You certainly need to start looking at the core of these things. There's so much to do. I think in so many fields that you have been assigned to, we can certainly increase the impact on the market, impact on people's lives, impact on the average citizen, without having to raise additional taxes or cut spending or find some inflationary spending or things like that. I give you a classic example. In the field of agriculture, what is our job? What is our aim? Our aim is to ensure decent livings and incomes to farmers on the one hand, and as low as possible costs to the consumers on the other hand. That's the aim. What we'll call in economic terms the reduction of deadweight loss, that I want the producers to get the maximum possible and the consumers to pay the least possible. If you look today, that there's a huge gap. What the average farmer gets, the retail sale probably is 5x, 10x, 3x, 6x. So at some level, there will be logistics costs, there will be friction, there will be transaction costs, but those ratios tell you something is profoundly wrong. And we know why it's profoundly wrong, because the middlemen have high access to capital and have information on both sides. They know what the supply looks like, and they know what the demand looks like, and they know who the buyers are, and they know who the sellers are, and therefore they can arbitrage the market. Every time we talk about MSP or e-procurement or forward trade or government subsidy, all of these we are trying to mitigate the structural problem that the people in the middle have two-sided information and much higher access to low-cost capital. So if our job is to make sure the farmers get a lot of our efforts have failed. In MSP applied in some of the northern states have led to skewed outcomes in many ways. What makes it much more complex is that there is this gap. If suddenly today crop A is very lucrative, every farmer shifts to crop A. Let's say the crop cycle is 4 months. What happens at the end of 4 months? There's a glut. All of a sudden, it's not lucrative anymore. So this information disadvantage gets amplified by the gap between intent and outcome. Of course, there are many other things that could fail. The water could fail, the crop could get flooded, anything could happen. So in these kinds of systems, designing resilience, designing efficiency is a very complicated thing. And I would say that most governments are in very, very initial stages. And so you look at the amount of headroom there is, how much you can improve in the course of 2 years. And I think if you start with that right mindset, there are no constraints. You're supposed to tell us things we haven't thought about before. You're supposed to ask questions that other people haven't asked before. Following the conventional wisdom and following the cliches doesn't get us anywhere. For that, we could have done without you. What you're supposed to do is ask difficult questions. If somebody cannot answer you, consider yourself successful because you've asked a question that has no immediate answer. And you have one other great luxury. In my time in corporate life, I discovered very quickly that when I was an associate or a vice president, if I asked profound questions, it caused people to think and maybe answer me. By the time I became, senior vice president, managing director, senior managing director, if I asked questions, everybody started getting nervous. Why is he asking the question? What are the implications? What will it affect my job? What about the bonus pool? So the higher up you go, the more people get guarded and the more they start thinking, what is the motivation for this question? When you're young and you're low ranked, everybody assumes you're only asking for knowledge. So the odds of getting your questions answered are much higher when you're relatively junior, and you at this point are relatively junior. So in conclusion, let me say that I think this is going to be a very exciting 2 years for you. We certainly have a lot of hopes. We see this as a very critical complement to the advice we get from highly qualified specialists and highly regarded professionals around the world for various things, because you bring something they don't. And I know that you have crossed so many barriers. 30 of you have come from almost 25,000 applicants. So I know each of you must bring such a phenomenally great set of skills and perspective and aptitude and attitude that we are very fortunate to have you. I hope you'll find your time here enlightening but also enjoyable. Don't drive yourself too hard. Life has many variables, many factors. Balance your life. You're not going to change the world any one day. You can try. I'm sure when you're young, you feel you can. You will, but you're not going to do it in a day. So don't burn yourself out. But ask a lot of questions. Keep thinking, why like this or why not like that? And I wish you all a great 2 years. I'm sure you'll make us proud as the flagship class of this program. I once again congratulate Mr. Uday Chandran, the director of the Institute, for designing the program, going through the arduous process of selecting all of you. I congratulate you, your parents, for being successful. And I thank you for this opportunity to talk to you. Thank you.